more from the Rogers Center. Let's bring in Sportsnet's Arden Zwelling. And Arden, a bullpen day always makes you wince a little. And then I winced a little more when I saw Trevor Richards get out there to start. But it worked out beautifully to open this series. So does it give you a little more confidence, or should it give me confidence that this approach could work for the remainder of the regular season?
Blue Jays might need it to, because you look at the last 2 weeks, the Blue Jays bullpen's essentially been their fifth starter. They've gone to this bullpen day construction 3 times now in the last 2 weeks. It couldn't have worked much better at Rogers Center here on Friday. I mean, Trevor Richards, what a turnaround. That 29-pitch outing the night prior when things did not go his way at all. He comes back the very next inning that the Blue Jays play, and he strikes out 3, and then it goes to Julian Merriweather, and Yusei Kikuchi gets hit around a little bit at the beginning of his outing, as he does, and then settles in and starts striking dudes out, as he does, and then on from there. 7 relievers combining for the Blue Jays. It's not something that you want to be relying on at this point in the season, but out of necessity, the Blue Jays have had to rely on their bullpen to get them through several turns of the rotation, and it's been working out to this point so far.
Yeah, and October is inching closer. You mentioned this time of season, and it's hard not to notice George Springer grimace at times because of that elbow. He starts in center. He crushes a 3-run homer, and you love to see it. But as the gap in the standings widen, should they consider resting him?
But the Blue Jays need to win as many games as they can right now, and then they can see about rest towards the end of the season once the playoff race is, hopefully, they hope, a bit more settled. For now, every game is still just so important, so you need George Springer atop your lineup doing the things that he can at this time of year. I mean, he's been Mr. October throughout his career. The Blue Jays are going to hope that that could show up a bit earlier, but really, Danielle, what the Blue Jays are trying to do at this point is make that final 3-game series at Camden Yards against the Baltimore Orioles in October meaningless, irrelevant. They don't want that to have anything to do with where the Blue Jays end up in the postseason, in the standings, etc. They want those 3 games to not matter so they can do things like rest George Springer and give Bradley Zimmer a full 9 innings in center field. You want a lot of Yusei Kikuchi in that in that series. You want Trevor Richards in that series, Julian Merriweather. You want to be resting your best bullpen arms, your best starters, lining those guys up for a wild card series. That's what the Blue Jays are doing right now, and they have an opportunity this weekend to beat the Baltimore Orioles, push them down in the standings, and make sure that final series of the season is completely irrelevant.
So Jose Barrios starts Saturday. They've won his last 5 starts, and ignoring one blip, he's been steady over that span. Do you think he gets a nod in a best-of-3 wildcard scenario, and is it contingent on how well he pitches this series?
It comes down to matchups, really, is what I think it is. And it's obviously going to be Alek Manoah and Kevin Gausman starting games 1 and 2 for the Blue Jays in a wild card series. In game 3, you could go to Ross Stripling, you could go to Jose Barrios. It really is going to depend on who matches up best against your opponent, what the Blue Jays think is most optimal. So I think there's still a lot to be said over these final 3 weeks of the season, and crazy things can happen, injuries can happen, guys can fall off cliffs with their performance, guys can surge and peak at the right times. So the Blue Jays will make that decision when the time comes, but I really do think so much of it is going to depend on just the matchup with the opponent that they're facing. We've seen surprising decisions before in the past. We'll see if we see it again here.
After a rough series close and being shut out, I'm sure they're glad they peaked in this opener against Baltimore. Thanks so much, Arden.
Thank you.